Thank you for coming to this MAP talk on contextual approaches to evangelism and discipleship in an Islamic context. I know it's a bad time of the day for a talk like this, but I'll keep it short, about 15 minutes, and then you can ask a question, all right? My name is Tim. I'm the Dean of Indonesia. I'm from the Diocese of Singapore, but tasked with this job of looking after the Anglican churches in Indonesia. So 80% of my time is in Indonesia. So I travel from 5 days, between 5 days to 10 days, and returning back home for a couple of days, and I'm on the road again. All right. So that's been my life. 80% of my life is in airport, airplanes, traffic jams, hotels, and okay. For this part of the talk, if you could just take note, please do not post this session on any social media platforms, because I'm going to introduce some of our work, which is quite sensitive, and myself included, because security issues, and we don't want the work to be jeopardized, by this social media information. This is Indonesia. Indonesia has 270 million people, consisting of 300 ethnic groups speaking over 700 different languages in 34 provinces in 3 time zones. Yeah, so I'm in 3 time zones. Sometimes I'm not sure where I am. I wake up in the morning and say, am I at home or is this hotel? Who's this strange lady sleeping next to me? All right. Indonesia has the largest Muslim population in the world. So Islam is about 87%. Protestant Christianity is about 6%. Roman Catholicism 3%. Hinduism 2%, and Buddhism 1%. For the work that we're doing for the Anglican Church in Indonesia, our vision is to establish the Diocese of Indonesia, and our mission, we are just doing 3 things: planting churches in provincial capitals, discipling believers to be effective witnesses, and we are establishing Anglican schools. So if you look at the column on church planting, currently we have 31 churches in 13 provinces. This year we would plant 2 more churches in 2 more Indonesian provinces, making up to 33 churches. We are doing school planting as well. Currently we have 5 schools in 3 Indonesian provinces. This year we will set up another 2 schools in 2 Indonesian provinces. Part of our work, if you look at the percentage of the Muslim people, they're 87%. There's a lot of Muslims in Indonesia, but we are seeing, in a sense, part of our work focusing on the Muslims, and we are also discovering that outreach to Muslims are not homogeneous. So we have different contexts. Like, for example, in the Western context, Islam, you'll find it different from the Middle Eastern, the African context Islam. And then the Asian context Islam will be also different, because you have a lot of folk religion, because for example, in Indonesia, they were colonized by the Hindu Empire before the coming of Islam. So there's a lot of Hinduism that is absorbed into Islam in Indonesia, and together with their cultural roots. And then you have also the national Islam, where Islam becomes a state religion. For example, let me just give you an example. In Malaysia, you cannot use the word Allah for God. All right. So they are militant about it. So you only have one type of Islam in the country of Malaysia. Is that fundamentalist, radical, and they will fight for Islamic terms like Allah, for example. But Allah is just the tip of the iceberg, because there are a number of words that that are considered Islamic that we should not, as a Christian, be using. For example, Injil, you cannot use Injil. But Injil is the gospel, you see, right? Yeah. There are cases where the Bibles were confiscated by the authorities because the word Allah is in the Bible. But for Indonesia, the growth of the Islam in Indonesia is a bit different, because if you look at Islam in Indonesia, there is a spectrum, all right? You have, on the extreme left of the spectrum will be those Muslims that are nominal. So like our nominal Christians, right? They don't give a hoot about their religion. Then you have the liberal, right? The liberal will be very inclusive in their approach. They see themselves as one of, the rest of the other religion. And then you have the moderate, which practice a more secular Islam. But then you move on to further right, right? You have the non-violent fundamentalists, that really wants to practice Islam to the fullest, and including the application of the Sharia law in the country. And then at the other end will be the violent fundamentalists, which want to impose Sharia and a very radical Islam. So this is the breadth of Islam in Indonesia, and there are opportunities for us to reach out to the nominal Islam, or the liberal Islam, or even the moderate, right? Those who are fundamentalists that that would want Sharia to be part of their national policy is a bit difficult to break through, but it's not impossible, right? And so in terms of the development of Islam in Indonesia, you find that the early missionaries that came were the Sufis. The Sufis practiced a kind of mysticism of Islam. And then for the next 400 years, there were moderate Islamic development. Radical Islam only came up maybe 30 years ago in the 70s. And they have only some methodology, but one of the methodology they're using to convert the nominal or the liberal or the moderate Muslims into their camp will be one-to-one discipleship. All right, the church has given up one-to-one discipleship, and the Muslim found it, and now it has become one of the tools that were used in the universities. So this is a survey they did recently on the radical students, and you can see the brown color ones are the intolerant, and where the yellowish, beige, they are most tolerant. So you got that spectrum, and that color of intolerance is growing, as you can see from the survey that is done in the country. Right? You can see this is a book that I picked up at the bookshop, Margins of Islam. It's an interesting book because it highlights the different approaches to Islam, and Islam is not homogeneous. All right, and I pick up a quote from the chapter on Indonesia, and the writer says this: Indonesian Muslims are not monolithic. Even just on the island of Java, the three main groups, the Javanese, the Sundanese, and the Maduris, have missiologically significant differences between them. This serves as a reminder that we must give particular attention to each context, sometimes right down to the neighbor and clan, to assure that we communicate the gospel of Jesus Christ in ways that are clear and compelling. Okay. The other aspect of Islam is this: a Muslim is what Islam tells them to be, and Islam is what a Muslim tells you it is. All right. So you got different definition of Islam, and whoever we thank Bishop Kenneth Craig for that. But however it is, we are sensitive to the different spectrum, and we try to reach different spectrum differently. So Phil Marshall said this: the gospel of Jesus Christ must be attractively presented into the context of any given group of people. This is a process which involves great sensitivity. And it's true, when you work among Muslims, all right, we have to generate great sensitivity on our part, how to reach out to them, and not putting a stumbling block in between our outreach to them. So for the Anglican Church, we are kind of just adopting this C1 to C6 spectrum that have been there for a while. All right, we are building C1 and C2 churches. C1 churches are traditional churches using a non-indigenous language like English, right? So you have an English-speaking church in Indonesia is a C1, and a C2 will be a church that uses their bahasa Indonesia. But we are also moving into a C5 situation where we are reaching out to insiders. We are particularly in the rural areas where there are large Muslim majority community, and how do we reach out to them? So in our church planting strategies, we are planting C1, C2 churches in the urban centers, but as we go into the more rural areas, we are planting contextual C5 churches. All right. But can a C1 church do an effective Muslim ministry? The answer is yes. Okay. I'd like to just give you an example of what we have done. All right. This is an example of a C1 churches in Muslim outreach, and that opportunity was open to us to work among the Muslim Afghani refugees in Jakarta. And can you imagine the Afghanis from Afghanistan? They have to run away. They're Muslim. They found themselves in the largest Muslim population in the world, and here we are doing work among the Afghanis. So coming to Indonesia, we have about 14,000 refugees. Globally, you find that 1% of the refugees are resettled, but in Indonesia, it is 2%. All right. So it gives us opportunity to reach out to them, and they are there for a long time. So we reach out to groups, to families. We do we help them with English. We organize English courses, education for the children growing up in the refugee camp. We do one-to-one discipleship. We do the Alpha course. We do discipling, and we create friendship as well. So we have two churches. They are English speaking in Jakarta. One will be All Saints Jakarta, and this is Reverend Alan Wood. He's a missionary from CMS Australia. We thank CMS Australia for sending him to us. And the church managed to baptize a few of the Afghanis. All right. And we praise God for it. They found Jesus in the largest Muslim population in the world. Yeah. Okay. This is God's humor, like it's not ours. All right. We don't know that. So I met some of them, and there are a few Mo's. Muhammad, when they became Christian, became Mo. Hey, I'm Mo. I'm Mo. Okay, 5 of them. Now we have also another church called Providence Anglican Church, pastored by Reverend James Long, Sam's missionary, doing work also among the refugees as part of that ministry. I have a short clip, all right, for you to watch, a 3-minute. Unfortunately, I can't get the volume in, but okay, we'll just watch silent movie. Oh, there you go.
You're scared to take a step, afraid to see what's next. So you wait till you think it's safe to move. You tend to think too much. You need to open up your heart to see where He is leading with the Lamb. Just for your feet, a spotlight just for your path. When He moves, you got to move. You know you got to lose control.
All right. Another short video. I just want you to watch this. The Muslim women in the jubah, and look at what they're saying. Muslim women singing God is greater. All right, so we organize classes for them, especially English classes. All right, and just a text from a guy named Zawli. He said that, "Hi, Mr. James," referring to Reverend James Long. "I wanted to share this, as you mentioned before, when you become ready to tell me to go the next step. I think I'm ready. Even though I look young and knowing God, but as I think I learned enough, and it is almost around 3 years that I'm reading about Christianity and joined to the Bible class. I think it's time to going forward for completing the faith." How about that?
Amen.
We are moving into a C5 church planting as well. All right, so we are moving into the community in the rural areas where many of them are in fundamentalist, set up. So we adopt a different methodology. A couple of us are doing what we call a Christian Quranic hermeneutics, in trying to figure out how can we effectively reach out to the Muslims in the rural areas. So some of these things came up in our discussion. For example, like adopting Eugene Nider's dynamic equivalence model, which later on became it became a translation, right? You get an NIV Bible and so forth. But we are using it somewhat differently. So we are thinking of a dynamic equivalent in terms of the practice of faith. For example, using the Quran as a pre-evangelism tool. And very simply, just to give you an example, the Quran talks a lot about Jesus, and so we're going to use Jesus as the focal point in our discussion and talking together. For example, the Quran said Jesus is a kalimat, the word of God. All right. So but it doesn't explain why Jesus is the word, right? It just lists in the Quran a verse that says that Jesus is the word. So we can bring them to John chapter 1, right? So we have Jesus as the word, which is divine, has come to us. So we are using stuff like that, okay? And then we are moving into what do you call that? Adapting Islamic terminologies into our Anglican worship life as well. So some of the stuff have been done earlier, like sharing your faith with the Muslim evangelism, building bridges, camel method. Right? We are thinking of something new, because our critic of this is that I think it's too fast. Not enough time is built in terms of the relationship building and so forth, right? So sometimes we make the mistake of using, for example, a campus crusade. You got 4 spiritual law, you explain the law, and you expect them to come to faith in Jesus, but it doesn't go that way, right? So even in our Anglican church life, we are using a more Islamic terminology. So in terms of the priest, I'm an imam in Indonesian context. We do have the ustad, the religious teachers who go into different places to have one-to-one conversation with the Muslims on the ground. Our language of our prayer book has changed into somewhat, using some of the Islamic terminology as well. And so, in terms of contextual approaches, we do one-to-one, in a sense, conversation. We develop relationship. I think a very important key element in terms of Muslim outreach is developing a relationship with them. We can't come in cold. We can't just give them the four spiritual law and expect them to come to faith, right? There are a lot of dynamics because the Muslim in Asia as well as in the Middle East, we are more community based. We are not like the West who are individual, but we are very communal. And so when we make a decision to come to receive Jesus, it affects the community, all right? And as such, we need to build that relationship until they can trust us, the family trusts us, and so forth. We do gender-based outreach as well because they're very strict in terms of gender. So women folk will reach out to the women folk and men into men. We want to focus on Jesus, Isa al-Masih, and we have a church that uses Islamic style in terms of worship. We sit on the floor, we memorize scriptures. Communion is done differently, liturgy is done differently as well. All right, so we don't wear our garbs and so forth. All right, so we do it sitting on the floor, very Islamic, and they can come wearing their tudung, or the men will come with their headgear and so forth.
And where do the women sit?
On the floor, but among themselves. In a room like this, they sit on the floor. They are by themselves. The men, but because we are Christian, we don't want to again do too much of the segregation, right? We do partner with local parachurch organizations to do the outreach. All right. There are a couple of parachurch organizations in Indonesia which are specialized in reaching out to the Muslims, but the difficulty is for them to gather them into a community for worship. So we are working with some of these agencies when they do an outreach, and then you have a believer here, a believer there. We'll find a way to gather them into a community. It may not be called a church, it may be called a prayer house. I think in the Indonesian context, you have what we call a rumah ibadat. Rumah ibadat is a synagogue actually, all right. So rumah ibadat is an accepted term in Indonesia. So it's not a church. And they say, are you going to church? No, I'm going to the house of prayer, a fellowship, the rumah ibadat, the synagogue. So you have a Christian synagogue anyway. So we create the community for worship. We work with the different agencies because the work is very slow. It's not a fast work. It's not overnight success. We don't have a major gathering of people, and so it takes time to gather them. And sometimes it's only one or two. Sometimes it could be a few of them. All right. We are just starting this ministry in South Kalimantan, Banjarmasin area. Yeah. So the Lord is opening some doors for us actually over there.